So you've been telling me lately you've been maybe more aware of the connection between, like, let's say normal life and your art, but also in, let's say, like the everyday basis.
Yeah. So basically, I think the intention of what I'd like to make and what I'm making now is just more true to, the feelings that you feel every day. Whatever happens to me every day, I want to express that. And I think that the main goal is erasing any preconceived notion or intention and just going straight from feeling, straight from the heart to the hand, and erasing the mind or any thought. So very stream of thought, production process, picking colors, picking materials just kind of happens on the fly. I lay everything out, and whatever the first thing I grab is, the first mark I make, not really, going into the process with any intention, just kind of
Is more instinct driven.
Yeah.
Like, but it wasn't like that before, or?
I think it's always been, that's always been a goal, but, there was always a process of thinking, I would like to make this, or this is what I think I should make, or this is what I think people would like. And now I just erase all of that, and I just want to see what happens and, let the chaos run.
How did you get to that point?
I think it's almost, evolving and regressing at the same time. You build up your skills, throughout, going from school to learning this to doing these projects. And then once you have a good bag of tools, then you can kind of just freestyle and let go.
Right.
And I think that keeps it interesting in a way where it surprises myself. If I'm creating with the intention that I want to please you, I take your, what I think you would like into consideration, and I try to make it, towards that. But I think erasing that fact and just doing it straight from my heart makes it even more intriguing in a way.
Because you still do like some commission work, right?
Yeah.
So like, do you manage to balance those two if you do commission work?
Yeah, I think that has become also a very, a very tricky goal, but also something that becomes a challenge. I think that if you can, still please, if you please yourself and please the client, then it's the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So in certain instances, I only let them give me enough information to where, I can create with intention to please them, but not have it be overbearing or make it, much more about the client than it is about me.
Right. Because it wasn't any, like, let's say one specific situation or one specific work that, let's say, took you over the barrier for like this is how it should feel, or like it would just gradually.
Yeah. It's funny. There was one instance that I can remember. I think it might have been a gradual process, but I work with the amazing Miss Lauren Hill a lot, and she is very, she has her own visions of how she likes things to look and to be. I have my own visions of how I like things to be. And it was always a gradual process of like her telling me what she wants and then me doing it and going back and forth. So I figured one time we had a stage design to do, and I said, give me the first three words off the top of your head. And it was the Dogon tribe from Africa, chromosomes, and indigo print. And I said, okay, say less. Took that information back to the studio, shut my phone off, didn't take any more calls for the rest of the night, produced a backdrop, solely based on the Dogon tribe, chromosomes, and indigo print. Went to the venue the next day before load in. We hung the backdrop, load in, sound check. She shows up and she's like, hey, where have you been? Blah, blah. And I'm like, well, let's take a look. And she was, shocked that I just went ahead and produced it. As people start coming in, the DJ's playing, we go to the back of the venue and I'm like, look, this is your ideas and my work. And, I let it flow freely.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of my favorite designs that we ever did. And from there, gain trust. And then, I felt like that's a good way of pleasing the client and pleasing myself.
Because is it also in the sense of building up that confidence for yourself to be able to trust yourself that much that you can also walk into client work with that same mentality that you maybe are producing artwork, like, purely for yourself.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very hard process, right? To get to that point.
Yeah, I think I have an exaggerated sense of confidence at some points, but I think as any artist, you have to. If you don't believe that you're the best, then you're not going to produce the best. So even if I have to inflate my ego and kind of go into the process a little bit, with a little bit of extra juice behind it, I feel like that's what you got to do to get the job done.
Yeah.
And then from doing that, then I proved myself. And then once you have that case study, you can go back to them and say, hey, this is how that process happened that time. This is what we produced. Yeah. Let's do it again. And then I actually use that. I think I told a client that story the other day, and I was like, just give me a couple keywords. And I feel like it's a great, once you do it once, then you get the confidence of, I can do it again. Mm-hmm. Maybe next time I'll just say, hey, give me one word, or
get even more cocky with it.
Just give me a little look, and I'll nail it.
Yeah, right.
So
no, because obviously, having that builds confidence to the next and next. What kind of like you said, but is it, let's say, producing your artwork completely by yourself and doing it for a client, like how is it with, like, for example, all these, for example, deadlines, money, having somebody over you to, in the sense of the client, like all these things, is it one thing that you feel like helps you tap into the essence of like you creating?
Yeah, definitely. I think the confidence, having complete trust in the artist, maintains the artist's confidence in producing the work. Also, letting them feel like they, it's a mutual thing. Everything has to be on an even keel. I never want to feel like I'm overbearing the client. I never want to feel like they're overbearing me. Also, just make the artist feel good and give them as much money up front. Yeah. Like when I produce, like, it's like you're a musician. It's like, give me the cash. I get up on stage and I'll give you the best show of my life. If there's ever any, this and that or negotiations, automatically I'm just like, all right, I was going to go give you my all, and now that you're trying to chop me down 10%, maybe I'm going to chop you down to 20% on the output.
Yeah, because that plays into like the flow and the trust, and let's say the freedom of like this, let's say, work relationship, or like what you create and you, like any friction there, then it fucks up the process, right?
It fucks it up from the start. It's like, I feel like a lot of clients don't understand, because they're not artists themselves, how much, even as an artist, when somebody comes to me with an idea, sometimes, boom, I've got it in my head, 99% done. That's the hardest part, is actually conceiving the whole idea in your head, and then the execution is just an after effect. So if they come to you, you get the idea in your head, and then all of a sudden it's, the wire is going to take this much, or hey, what do you think about like adjusting this? It's just like, come on, really. Right. And I think it's like, clients really need to be schooled on how to treat artists and creatives.
Yeah, because
in a way to get the best out of them.
Right.
Like, you're doing yourself a disservice from even like delaying a wire 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's like, come on, like.
Yeah, because we're just trying to keep some kind of flow, and like anything that interferes with that obviously interferes with the creative process too. Yeah. Because the creative process is our life, and what we live and breathe and feel is what we create, type of thing.
It's like if you're a cook and you're making a soup, and all of a sudden the client delivers like a subpar ingredient, the end product's not going to taste as good.
Yeah.
So
you were talking a little bit about, obviously the consumption of art, like you are, what you're around is what kind of forms you, and how that kind of translates to obviously consumer, but also you as an artist, and it's a 360 circle, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, everybody has a different level of how they intake the environment around them and the content around them. Everything contributes to, who you are. I'm a sponge. So if I'm at a very nice restaurant, but the decor is crap, the food tastes like crap to me because it's just everything contributes to the overall experience. And I very much consider what I see, what I hear, what I taste. It's all part of my diet.
Yeah.
So if I have bad artwork around me, then I'm not the best version of myself that I can be. I try to listen to music that's more uplifting and positive rather than, stuff that's dark and puts me in a crazy mood. Sometimes I use basically all music as like a tool. So sometimes I want to go into that crazy, hype mode and listen to heavy metal, and it produces, a different reaction out of me. But I think that, everybody has to be much more aware of like what they're consuming and, what they're watching online.
Yeah, because it's harder than ever because we get fed shit like literally the moment we open our eyes, like we're just getting fed stuff.
Yeah, it's like, you log into Instagram, it's just as bad as like eating Taco Bell every fucking day.
So that is like kind of interesting in the sense of, do you think the connection between, for example, like the person and the chapter you're in, the art you're creating at the moment, and whoever buys that art piece, they can potentially, feed off or like, let's say, get a intake. It's probably you, huh?
Sorry about that.
No, that's all good. I was just saying with the full circle of, let's say, you are putting something into the artwork. You have something, you put it down. It's a chapter in your thought process. The being of you is in the painting, and whoever buys that obviously get a piece of that, And I feel like that's obviously resonates to the buyer or like let's say the consumer of the art, some sense, because it creates depth. But like, do you feel like, let's say your buyers or buyers in general, like think about that they actually have that piece of energy in their house?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't like to sell my art to people that don't understand that because, it is such an extension of myself. When you put a piece of my art in your house, you're basically buying an extension of me. It's what I was going through, what I was ingesting, it's accumulation of my entire life up to that point. Yeah. So, when I sell a painting to a viewer, like my favorite, there's so much information and so much hidden subject matter in it. My favorite thing is, 10 years later, some collector will call me and be like, hey, like, I just moved this piece to a new room and I hung it in different light and now I'm seeing this. Yeah. And like, what did you mean from that? And it's like continues the story.
Yeah. Do you always talk about the story or like do you leave
I like to leave it as vague as possible and let them come up with their own interpretation because once they have it in their own, environment, it's an extension of themselves. Yeah. It's part of their diet that they're intaking. Certain times, like if a piece has a special meaning to me, I'll fill them in a little bit, but I always love to leave little hidden gems that, you might not be able to see right away. And then 5 years down the line, you're like, holy shit, like, I looked at this from a different angle and now I'm seeing this and it's like a whole new piece.
I like that a lot.
It makes it a lot more livable. Like, I feel like, why collect a piece if you get it right away? Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of artists these days are making artwork that is very like, the product of them watching Instagram and it's like 10-second clips. Yeah. It's like, I want to look at your artwork for 10 seconds and get it out of my face. Yeah. I want to create stuff that people can live with for, their entire lives and then hand it down to their children. And it becomes like, it always, unfolds something.
Yeah. Yeah. Because once that depth disappears, it doesn't come from that, it's technically, it doesn't come from anything. It just comes from maybe you seeing a reel and then you creating a reel. There's nothing wrong with that, but like it will just be with that, you know?
Well, it's even I've tried to utilize that. Like my paintings have so much information and the fact I can use different printing processes. So even if I'm scrolling Instagram and I see something I like, I can take a screenshot. Yeah. And then insert that into the piece and other stuff. Like sometimes I'll just like to completely turn my phone off and read an epic novel and take quotes from that. So
because what do you do you actively do, let's say, measures to filter out stuff, or you do feel like you just have a flow now to just filter out?
I feel like that comes to your personal taste, you know. It's like, obviously, you know, some mornings I wake up and I just like doom scroll the dumbest shit, and then, you know, I'll go into the studio and try to alchemize what I ingested into something beautiful, but a lot of times maybe it just makes me not even want to get into the studio and make any art.
Because obviously, you know, you're in Soho, you're in the studio, you've been there for quite a while, and you live here, you work here. It's like, obviously, this is a huge part of what you take in, you know, and like, I mean, you have Supreme on the store, you have like, you're in like the heart of a lot, but also obviously you have the phone, your friends. You know.
I feel like it's everybody's personal duty to block certain things out, to put the things that are going to benefit you in front of your face. Obviously, being right here in the epicenter of the world, I have everything at my disposal.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I walk out the door, I try to, you know, I put my headphones on, try to listen to good music, try to like not look at the bullshit, try to focus on the good stuff. And sometimes you just gotta, you know, get the fuck out and just go look at the ocean somewhere. You know?
Do you feel like you can follow yourself in that? Like, do you know when you need certain things, or like, okay, I'm just scrolling because?
Yeah, like, I think it's also like, you know, obeying your emotions and your hunger for certain things. Like sometimes I'll be like, holy shit, I've been, you know, looking at Instagram for so long, I need to go to like the IFC theater and watch like a good movie or something like that, and like fulfill that need within yourself. It's like if you're, you know, eating crap for a few days, all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, it's like I need to drink some water and like, eat a good meal. You know?
But it's also not that easy to do that sometimes.
It's all it's a discipline.
Yeah.
You know, it all goes back to discipline, which, you know, I'm not the master of discipline, but I try to be. Like, even though I can consciously hear myself saying these things, like, you know, who happens to know, like, I might go out to dinner later and have a few drinks and then, you know.
But yeah, would you like to be a master of it, or are you just content with, let's say, the amount of mastery you are?
I'm never content.
No.
I think, like, I've learned to be comfortable in my discontent, but obviously, like, you know, the me that I want to be wants to be the best of everything.
Yeah.
And even when I become the best of, or what I think would be the best now, I'm going to want more. You know, I'm always wanting more and more and more and more.
Is there anything specific you trying to be better at right now?
Yeah, my discipline.
Okay.
Exactly. You know, it's like being in New York is a hard thing. There's so much temptation.
Yeah.
And, you know, as much as I want to say, oh, I'm going to, you know, go to sleep early, wake up early, work out, drink water, and, you know, focus only on my work, it's like, you know, then you become, you know, the boring person.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's a good balance too, because like that is like, let's say, the best thing to do, but it's also, it might not be the best for you, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like doing something you feel like you have to do or should do versus something you like, it's just kind of coming back to the flow of things, or like, you know, you're just picking the colors, just, you know, you don't think about stuff, you know, like the stuff you do to not think about it, it's usually the best for you. Obviously you have to have the self-discipline in there to be able to, you know, cut yourself when it's like stuff that is bad, but at the end of the day, like to go back to the organic flow of things, I feel like that is, you know, once you follow that in every sense of the word, your life, your art, like everything, just like flow state, you know?
Yeah.
That's what we want,
it's like
right?
Creating a routine, you know? I think once you develop, I'm very bad at creating a routine just because, you know, I do live my life very chaotically in a freestyle, but I feel like when I do start doing repetitions in daily life, then it becomes second nature, and then you just do those things when you're in flow state.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's all back to, you know, discipline of like, and you have to also maintain balance. You know, you can't just be 100% disciplined all the time, or you're going to just, you know, go crazy in a different way.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you feel like you have that balance?
No.
Okay. So coming back to the discipline, and then once you get that the way that you want to.
The ultimate goal for everybody is to have ultimate balance.
Yeah. But what is balance? You know?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I do that I kind of just realized in my artwork, I call it you know, asymmetrical balance. So, you know, I like to, when you paint, you're looking at the different elements that you put here and you're like, okay, what would offset that and what else can I add but still keep everything in harmony and balance? And I think that's kind of like, you know, with life too. It's like you can go this direction, but you don't want to go too far that way. You have to do something else to keep yourself, you know, somewhat centered.
Yeah.
You know, somewhat on an even keel, type shit.